Good morning. I'm Ray, and that's Mandy. Mandy's 3.5, riding her now for about 5 months. Did some groundwork with her at the beginning, and today what I want to talk about is good citizenship with horses. Good citizenship definition for me is a horse that basically gives you personal space. It leads very well. It's not food aggressive. It gives the pressure, lifts the feet for the farrier, can be caught in the field pretty easily. These are good citizenship horses that you can bring to the barn. You can take them on a trailer out. You can have the vet come over, the farrier come over, and they're well behaved. You got to teach them that from the beginning. So out of those generally 6 good citizenship characteristics per se, I want to talk about 3 this morning. But before I talk about that, let me get him over here. Her over here, I'm sorry. So I want to talk about a few things for us. That's pressure, release of pressure. Pressure is the motivator. The release of pressure is the teacher. Pressure comes on slowly. It's released very quickly. The other thing is phases. When you teach a horse, teach it phases. Phases mean going from the lightest possible pressure to whatever pressure is required. You can do 3 phases, 4 phases, it doesn't matter, until you get just a little bit when you're teaching them. And then, once they know it, then it's ask, tell, demand. So, pressure is fairly important. My philosophy is consistency, and it's everybody else's philosophy probably too. But consistency, do it the same way all the time. Persistency, do it until you get what you want, even if it's a little bit when you're training them. And then time, it's horsey time. It may take 10 hours with this horse and 2 hours with another horse. Timing is critical. A horse's span of association is about 3 to 5 seconds. So if I want to teach the horse to trot on a cluck, I need to cluck, and then within 3 to 5 seconds, I need to get him in a cluck, so he can associate that cluck with the requirement to trot. You're walking off on me here. There you go. Good girl. The other thing is repetition and patience. When you lose patience, quit. So today I want to talk about the first 3 good citizenship exercises. And I'm going to show you kind of, not the end result, but I'm not going to go through the full process because the video would take too long. But I want to do the first 3. And the first 3 are personal space, proper leading, and then non-aggressiveness with the food. Okay, so personal space means basically when I've got a horse here, come here, I want her or him to remain out of my personal space. How often do you go and you see horses being held by their owners and they're talking to the vet or the farrier or a friend, and they've got the lead line about 6 inches from the clip here, and they're just yanking it because the horse is all over the place, coming to the left, coming to the right, going forward, anxious, and you see it all the time. So a good citizen will stay where you put them, and they'll stay out of your personal space. So if I want to teach personal space, remember we were talking about phases. So phases, when I do personal space for a horse, do whatever phases you want. You start with the lightest pressure, and this is lightest pressure to me. Then I'll go wrist, then I'll go elbow, and then I'll whale until the horse leans back or takes 1 step back, then I release. Okay? Release of pressure is a teacher. The end result would be basically that they back it up. They back up those phases. The pre-cues is what they go with. So the end result is you wave your finger and they back up until you stop waving your finger. So with Mandy here, I'll put her over here a little bit. Here we go. I'll put her like this so you can see what we're talking about. Ooh, ooh. And then I'll get in front of her here, and phase one would be back. And I'm just wiggling my finger here, and she goes back until I tell her to stop. How do I stop? I stop wiggling, and then I expect her to stay there. Now, a good citizen will stay there half an hour if you need to, until you're talking to someone and you're on a loose line. You're not jabbing them or irritating them. You're just saying, this is where I want you to stay. You can always bring them forward. You can always go to them, but that's their spot. And remember, how you do it is through phases. So if you're going to teach them, take your lead line. 14-foot lead line is usually good. And phase one is the finger, 2 is the wrist, 3 is the elbow, and 4 you're wailing. And all I'm doing is increasing the pressure with the phases until, when we're talking about persistency, when I get to that phase 4, I keep going with phase 4 until I see that horse lean back or take a step. Then I repeat and repeat. And if she does it on phase 2, then she takes a step back and we release. And then we ask for more steps. With the eventuality of, as you wiggle and you say back, or whatever word you want to use, back, 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 and she goes back. And then when I stop, whoa, you can use whoa. You don't have to. I just teach them when I stop wiggling, that's your spot. Okay, enough of that. We won't go into too much detail. The next thing is proper leading. Proper leading is basically, if you have a horse and you don't know that horse and you're not trusting that horse, then what you need to do basically is keep the horse, behind you on the lead line. Maybe 5 feet, 10 feet, because you don't trust that horse to run over you. Once you got some trust in your horse, and you know your horse pretty well, then you want to teach it to properly lead. What does that mean? A properly led horse to me is a horse whose neck is on your shoulder. And you're on a loose line, and no matter where they go, they go and keep that shoulder on their neck, on your shoulder. They've got great geospatial orientation. So they know their place in space very well. So how did I teach that? Well, on a loose line, maybe a little bit of a tight line, I could initially teach her. But I'm not going to teach you how to teach them. I'm just going to show you the end result. And we can have another video that shows how to do it. So I usually just pull off and say, walk on, and then I have a loose line. And you can see my line is basically a J line. Up, and you decide to take off a little bit there. That's okay, you correct me. The horses are always different. But on a J line, if I turn towards her, she keeps that neck where it needs to be and about a foot away from my shoulder. If I stop, she stops. If I back up, she backs up, and it's on a loose line. It doesn't come naturally. Obviously, you got to teach them this. Ooh. Again, if I walk off, I point my hand, and I want that neck at my shoulder. Walk on. So as I turn, it's her responsibility to keep that distance. Up. Ooh. Back. Okay. Once they're very good, you can take the lead line off and just ask them to go without, of course, when you're working in the arena, you can do this. You don't want to do it outside. But again, you're going to do the same thing, and you're going to ask her or him to stay with you. Good girl. That's a good girl. Up. And again, they should stay with you, keeping that neck on your shoulder. Ooh. Back. You back up. They should back up. Okay. Enough about proper leading. Last thing I want to talk about is the horse that is food aggressive. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the feed down, and I'm going to take control of my feed. So I put it down, and I say to her, that's my feed. If she starts to go to it, I'll go like this and back her up. And I stand over my feed because I'm the lead mare. And as the lead mare, I control the feed. And then when I don't want the feed anymore, I back off and let her go for it. Now, you want to do this a couple times. So right now, I'm going to say, I want the feed back. Back. I'm telling her to back off. Now I'm controlling the feed. It's my feed. Now when I don't want the feed anymore, I'll back off and allow her, as my lower on my totem pole, to come and eat the feed. You do this 3-4 times, or every time you put your feed bowl down, and you'll find that she's going to be a different horse when it comes to food aggressiveness. I hope these 3 good citizenship exercises were worthwhile.